Hi everyone, my name is Parul and welcome back to my channel Ask Parul. Ask stands for Always Seek Knowledge. So are you an NRI who is planning for their next trip to India, potentially in next 6 months or even 12 months? Ever wondered about the different accounts that you need to maintain in India? Or maybe you're unsure about the NRI banking and effective tax planning. Things such as maintaining your property, investments such as mutual funds or your demat account back in India, and also catering to family responsibilities. Don't worry, we'll have you all covered in this video. In this podcast, I will have my esteemed guest, Mr. Chandrakantha Bhat, who is a renowned financial planner and founder of NRI Money Clinic. We'll deep dive into all the relevant topics for the NRI community, so do ensure you check this podcast out. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So we have in our studio our esteemed guest, Mr. Chandrakantha Bhat. He's a founder of NRI Money Clinic and a renowned financial planner and investment consulting, operating from both India and Dubai. NRI Money Clinic is a very famous financial planning services which specializes and caters primarily to the NRI community. I'm sure you would have seen his channel on YouTube and some of his videos. I have certainly done, and I've learned so much in last few months. If you haven't seen so far, I'm going to link the website and the channel in description box. Go and check that out and also see their business and offerings. Mr. Bhatt has won various prestigious awards, such as the CEO Award of Excellence, Lifetime Achievement Award for imparting knowledge globally in financial, tax, and investment sector. He has also been recognized by Silicon India magazine as 10 most promising financial consultants in GCC 2023. Welcome so much, Mr. Chandrakant, on my channel. It's really an honor to have you here.
Same here. It's a great honor to talk to you, Parul, and I have great connections with Australia. My experience of Australia runs to more than 3 decades. Way back in 1992, I lived in Tasmania for a couple of months as a guest of state of Tasmania. I had been to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Gold Coast, Brisbane, a lot of these cities. So I frequently keep coming to Australia every now and then. It's a great opportunity to talk to your audience in Australia through you.
Definitely, sir. And I think, we have so many audience, of course, in Australia, but in India, because we all are from Indian origin, so primarily most of us is in India. But I think definitely this topic that we are going to cover today will be helpful to the entire NRI community. So we have people from Australia. I'm sure people across India, US, UK would also be seeing this podcast. So we'll try to cover as much as we can in this podcast. Uh, Mr. Bhatt, what I'm going to do is I'm I'm going to start by asking you that generally when people are taking their India visit, it's primarily for vacation and meeting friends and family, which is great. But I'm also aware that there are a lot of financial things that one must consider in their next India visit. So that's something that I am going to be talking to you in this podcast. Maybe I'll get started by asking that when an NRI is next on their India visit, let's maybe start from bank accounts. There are different kind of bank accounts. People may still be having savings account. Are there any changes that the NRIs must know while while they have their bank accounts still in India due to investments or other purposes? So maybe let's just start with the bank accounts first. Do they need to change anything or they need to be aware about anything?
Absolutely. The banking for NRIs is not same as that of the resident Indians. You need to be having specialized bank accounts.
Okay.
NRI has to deal with the Indian banks through NRE, non-resident external account, and NRO account, non-resident ordinary account. These are two different types of account. They have their own utilities. I'll try and explain what's the benefit of this and why they should use it and why they should close the resident savings bank account. If you're a person who is living earlier in India, now you got a job or you have already been living in Australia, the first thing that you have to do is close your savings bank account.
Okay.
You are a non-resident Indian and maintaining a savings bank account amounts to violation of FEMA law.
Yeah.
Okay, so FEMA law a violation can be a very expensive affair. Everything that I say here, each one is worth doing a video on it. In fact, we have done a lot of videos on my channel, NRI Money Clinic. People can search for these topics on my channel, and I've called the experts. The experts have spoken the finer points of that. For example, what is a FEMA law? Savings bank account maintained by NRIs is a clear violation of FEMA law. You are not supposed to transact using savings bank account. What is that you can do? You can straight away send a message to your bank through an email or through personal visit if you were to be there in India. Ask them to convert this bank account into NRO account. So the equivalent version for a SB account for an NRI is NRO account.
Right.
Bank will be happy to do it. Bank will ask you a couple of documents like your passport copy, the visa copy, your employment letter, a proof that you are living outside, your overseas address proof, your email ID, your overseas telephone numbers. All these things will be captured by the bank, and it is happy to convert your bank account into an NRO account.
Right.
These days, what happens is because of KYC regulation, KYC stands for Know Your Customers. The banks and the authorities want to make sure that the account is opened by a person who is still living. How can they make sure that they will insist that you appear to the branch
Yeah.
or you go to the nearest embassy and certify it? Thereby, it can be certified that you have gone there, then send it by courier, and the accounts can be opened.
Yeah.
Equally true is that many of the Indian banks, particularly State Bank of India, banks like ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, you are in Sydney. In Sydney, you have got the Union Bank over there. So these banks have maintained overseas bank account. So you can walk into one of those branches. You can directly open an account over there, NRE, NRO account. Or if you are having a savings bank account in India, in the same banks, you can request through that branch to be converted into NRO account.
Okay.
So this must be done. All your transactions have to be routed through NRO account.
Understood.
Some people get into a question that I have a housing loan way back in India before I moved abroad. I have some of my EMIs, my PPF contributions, some contributions which are getting automatically picked up from my SB account. There
Yeah.
are people who have retired getting pension into an SB account. What happens to all these things? These are genuine questions. These are genuine issues which needs to be addressed. All
Yeah.
that you have to do is, in most cases, most banks do not even change your bank account number when you change from SB account to an NRO account. Account numbers remain same. The institutions do not have any problem for you to remit money into this particular account. For any reason, if the account number gets changed, then you should intimate such institution if it is a PPF account, if it's
Mm.
your pension account, or you have a loan account which needs to be regularly serviced, you inform those institutions. Likewise, you can inform your bank also whatever the standing instructions you have given from that savings bank account be equally honored from your NRO account. So
Right.
NRO account is a domestic account meant for transactions within India. You have to pay for a family member, you have to settle your bills, you have a property tax to be paid. You can be paying a telephone bill, any transactions within India, or you have to collect rent. It has to be done through NRO account. That's the primary reason why you maintain an NRO account.
Right.
The second most important account is the NRE account. A NRE account is non-resident external account. There are multiple benefits with NRE account, and there are multiple restrictions which come with NRE account.
Mm.
Number one, what is my big benefit in NRE account? You are an NRI, you are staying in Australia or some country outside of India, you remit money into India, you remit it to NRI. For any reason, you need this money to be repatriated back to your home country.
Yeah.
You don't need anyone's permission. It is freely repatriable. You don't need a chartered accountant certificate. You don't need authorities' permission. You can just go to the bank website, do an international transfer, it can quickly go. The second biggest benefit in this particular case is you can maintain fixed deposit under NRE account. The NRE accounts, fixed deposit, by law are income tax free in India.
Yeah.
Let's say if your Australia does not tax your income outside of India, sorry, outside of your Australia, if it doesn't tax, so it is tax free in India, it could be tax free in Australia. I do not know your tax laws.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take the case of United States today. It may be tax free in India, US taxes it. If it could be tax free in India, but UK might be taxing it. But for NRIs, the interest earned on NRE FD is 100% tax.
I think in
So
Australia
this
as well, it's considered as a foreign income. So you have to declare that.
even in Australia, I think so. I think so. If you're an Aussie citizen and you have an OCI card, it can become your overseas income, and
Yes.
your chartered accountant will guide you how it needs to
Mm.
be
But you can offset
recorded.
that. You can offset that. So let's assume if you're paid certain amount in India. So India and Australia have that double tax. So you can't be double taxed. So of course,
Yeah,
you already paid a certain amount. For that amount, you're not, but the delta you still have to pay in Australia.
right. So coming back to your question, if somebody has come there, the first thing is attend to these compliance issues.
Right.
Go to the bank, open your NRE NRO account, close all your savings bank account. Many times what happens is NRIs maintain bank accounts at different places. He was a student and he has an account. His parents should have opened. Then he got into a job in Bangalore. He opened an account there. Then he moved to Ahmedabad or New Delhi or Bombay. He opens an account. Please close all these accounts. Luckily enough, let's say that you have got accounts in 4 different cities. You don't have to travel to 4 different cities to close it. All the banks are today are quite well digitized. You can walk into one of the branches wherever you are and ask them to give a helping hand to close the account, and it's possible. So close all the SB account, one or two accounts, whatever you need, you maintain. Rest you must close.
Yeah.
When
Or
you're
else
dealing
you
with the bank, yeah,
can.
when you're dealing with the bank, my suggestion is have accounts in at least two banks. I'll tell you the reason why it makes sense for you to have accounts in two banks. Number one is you're traveling abroad, you lost your grid card, or you lost your user ID password, or the bank's IT could be experiencing some problem. The site is having an issue. You got locked out of one of the banks. Then you will feel fish out of water. If
Mm.
you have at least two bank accounts, the chances of both the accounts going locked are quite remote. So make sure that you have two accounts. But this is a bare minimum thing that you need to be doing.
Okay. But what happens, sir, for example, in case if somebody has a joint account? Let's assume I have an account with my mother or father. So in this case, for example, I have an NRI, but the other person is, let's say, still a resident of India. Then what happens in that case?
If you have a joint account, uh, you are an NRI and your mother is a resident.
Yeah.
If you become the first account holder, it becomes an obligation for you to change it to NRO or NRE, whichever the account it is. You have to convert it to NRO if you are the first account holder. But if you are the second account holder, accounting happens at your mother's level.
Mm.
All bank accounts are recognized for accounting purpose in the first account holder's name. If the first account holder is resident, in this case, you and your mother have a joint account. Your mother is the first account holder. You are an NRI, you are a second account holder, there is no problem.
Okay.
But if you are the NRI and you are the first account holder, you must convert this into an NRO account. And it is fine to have your mother as the second account holder. Accounting will not happen in her name. To
Okay.
best of my knowledge, even when you open an NRE account, I'm not very sure on it, but I remember reading this. As an NRE, you can have a resident Indian also as a second account holder, but they are not allowed to operate the account. So you can
Okay.
have a joint account, but they can't operate. Only you need to be operating.
Mhm.
But please do check it with the NRA desk of the bank. Don't take my words too seriously
Yeah.
on that.
Definitely, I think we all need to. I think this is a disclaimer for all the audience as well that please do seek a certified chartered accountant or financial planner to discuss your unique circumstances because I think this video and
Absolutely.
podcast that we are doing is for education purposes. But yeah, do check and describe your own unique circumstances. And I believe NRI Money Clinic also does provide these services. So if anyone does want to reach out to your team, I believe they can, right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so maybe just shifting slight gears from the bank accounts to the investment accounts, because most of them, and including myself, I used to do a lot of mutual funds, and people may have demat accounts or other securities accounts. So does the same thing also apply to investment accounts as well, like brokerage firms as well?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. See, for example, if you have maintained a demat account which is linked to your local savings bank account, that needs to be closed.
Okay.
You need not close it in literal sense, but you can convert that into an NRO demat account. You convert your SB account into an NRO account. Instruct your bank or brokerage that you have converted this SB account into an NRO account. Ask them to change the demat account tax status to an NRO account. You
Mm.
need not sell your stocks over there, but it can be directly moved to NRO demat account. We have done again a very detailed video with one of the speciality in this particular subject. People can look in our channel. I can as well send you that video. You can provide the description in the link to this video in the description box. The finer points of how to do it has also been given in this particular video. When it comes to question of mutual funds, the same story repeats. To invest in mutual fund, you don't need to have a demat account in the first place. You don't need to have. But you have a folios, and these folios will reflect you as a resident individual. Your tax status reflects as a resident individual. Now, when you become an NRI, your bank account has to change. Your folios also have to be changed into a non-resident tax status. There is a procedure to do that. You have to reach out to the respective asset management companies. They have a form for that. You have to give the new bank account proof that I have an NRO account. You have to redo your KYC. That means the existing KYC reflects you as a resident individual.
Yeah.
The new KYC should reflect you as an NRI. That means you have to give your overseas address proof, you have to give your overseas telephone number, email ID. First, write your KYC as a non-resident KYC, then approach the AMCs, give your old bank account proof, give your new bank account proof, and write that form, and they will change it into an NRO status.
Right. And I believe it's mandatory for us to first have an NRO or NRE bank account in my respective bank before approaching the brokerage firm or the demat account.
Yes, the bank account becomes the main thing. That's at the base of everything, and that must be first rectified.
Okay, cool. So I think yeah, that was an eye opener, and I remember when I first heard about all these things, it can sound very overwhelming, but I think it's so important that people are aware about these things, because in my personal experience there is a lot of documentation involved. So it's best done, of course, like you said, it can be done online, but I think it's best done when you are in person in India. So definitely I would also request the audience to please take this seriously in your next India visit. So maybe Mr. Chandrakant, I'll just shift gears slightly. So we spoke about different financial accounts. What about the identity document? So we have our PAN card, Aadhaar card, for example. If I move overseas, if I become an NRI or a citizen of a different country, then what are the documents that needs to be changed, and what kind of residence status changes needs to be maintained while I am in India? I'm like, while I come to India for a visit.
First, look at the PAN card. When it comes to question of PAN card, whether you are a resident Indian, you are an overseas Indian, PIO, foreigner, whatever it is, there is nothing called an NRI PAN card as such. When you are buying a PAN card, you could be mentioning that I am a such and such a resident status, but there is no designation as such to say that this is an NRI PAN. So PAN card remains same. But one of the problems that we have noticed with a lot of NRIs, it's a universal problem. In India, you did not have a particular way of mentioning your name or mentioning your father's name.
Hmm.
The first thing that we have to maintain or make sure is that all the documents, all the bank account, all the demat account, the mutual fund account, wherever it comes, or everywhere, your name should reflect the same way. If you have an Aadhaar, the name reflects in a way. The PAN card should reflect same way. The bank card should reflect same way. For example, my name is Chandrakant Bhat B. Is not same as B Chandrakant.
Mm.
Likewise, your father's name also be reflected in the same way. Now everything has become digitized now. So the because of this digitization, what happens is the system will pick it up, red flag it, and say it could be two different individuals. When
Right.
you need something to be done, the system will completely block you and say no, these two documents are not tallying. So check each and every document, whatever you have, your bank account, your PAN card, your Aadhaar card, your passport, everything should reflect your name the same way. Your parents' name should reflect same way, and there should not be any discrepancy on that. When
Okay.
it comes to question of PAN card, you don't need to do any changes when you become an NRI.
Right.
But there is one thing which you need to do is you need to be changing the NRI status in your IT website. When I say IT, income tax,
Ah,
yes,
is that okay? Okay.
right? So you have to visit the income tax portal, use your PAN card, get an access. How to do it? Again, I have a very detailed with my specialist chartered accountant, Mr. Sriram Rao. We have put a full detailed video on how to reflect your NRI status in the IT portal, and it's a very very important step. People should never miss it. Those people who are listening to us today, please visit your IT website. If you cannot access it, get hold of a chartered accountant back home in India and take their help and make sure that your PAN should reflect your NRI status in income tax portal.
Okay. But one quick question I have as a follow-up. Let's assume if somebody's marital status changed, especially for females, for example, or even for males, their address changed or anything. Do we have to be physically present to get all these things done in India, or it can be just digitally done? I mean, because this is an important thing. Let's assume 1 year down the line, let's say if somebody's marital status or address or anything got changed, not just their resident status. Uh,
See, marital status, gone are the days of our times where you never had a registered marriages. Most of the thing by declaration or other means people used to establish. But today, marriage registration has become compulsory.
yeah.
People need to register. So you have a marriage certificate. So if other documents does not reflect, you have a marriage certificates to prove, and it can be further endorsed by the notary public or the government agencies which are entrusted with that responsibility. In India, the passports mention the spouse name, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you are in Australia and the marital status has changed, you can walk into the Indian embassy. They have passport seva in multiple cities across the globe now. You can go there, you can give the proof there, and the embassy entrusted with this work can do it for you. I don't think you need to come back to India and do this. And
Okay.
let's say that you are in Sydney and you want certain changes to be done. Let's say that your Indian address has to be changed.
Yeah.
Then the embassy will send these details to Indian counterparts here. A police verification will happen, and then it will endorse. It's possible to change it from outside. It is
Right.
possible to change it from outside, but only in case of bank accounts, there is enormous hesitancy on the bank to do it online. So they will insist come to the bank, or they will say walk into the representative branch, or they will walk into the Indian embassy, get it attested, send us the physical copy back to our branches, then they will do it. That's the procedure the banks will follow.
Right. And you also mentioned about the tax implications, right? So, I mean, go to the ITR website. So, I'm assuming there are a lot of non-resident, like the NRIs, who don't actually file their tax return back in India. My personal, my personal opinion is that we should file the return back in India. What is your take on that?
Again, we have done a lot of educative videos on why it makes absolute sense for NRIs to file tax returns, whether you have an income or not.
Okay.
Going strictly by the law, If you don't have a threshold level of an income, you need not file a tax return.
Yeah.
You don't need to. But there is an added advantage by filing the nil tax return. You don't have any tax to be filed, but you still file a nil tax return. What do you achieve by that? Number one, you have a track record that you have filed. There is no income with you. You are establishing yourself that you are living outside of India. You are declaring that you are an NRI. You have lived outside of India for such and such a long period of time. If you were to come back to India at some distant future point of time, it will prove that you have lived outside of India for such a long time. You are entitled for RNOR benefits. Likewise, when you are an NRI, you have maintained NREFDs. These are tax free because you have not filed a tax return. Government doesn't know about it, and suddenly one day you come back to India, they see that you have got so much of an assets. The only thing the IT guys will see is that you have not filed a tax return. I won't say you are wrong. I won't say they are wrong. They are doing their duties, and you did your part. It is the system which did not record any of these things, and
Yeah.
you get an IT notice telling that explain me how you have got so much of an assets. Then you
Hmm.
have to go back, and then you have to say that I was working there. Then they'll say give me the bank accounts and all these things. Instead of that, file your tax return, declare whatever you have outside of India, make it completely green channel for yourself, live peacefully. What does it cost? You can file it yourself. Filing tax return in India is not that expensive. My best suggestion is you have a relationship with one of the chartered accountants. It could be one chartered accountant whom you know. It could be a friend, somebody who is working for your previous organization, somebody who is in your know-how. If you have nobody else, you can send us a message, and probably from one of our panelists can help you doing that.
Yeah.
In When you do it through a chartered accountant, the best benefit that you get is the tax landscape keeps changing every year.
Yeah.
You cannot keep track of all these things. If there are certain things which has to be taken into account, these people will do it for you.
Yeah.
Likewise, they can always keep checking your 26AS statement or account information statement, AIS, against your PAN number. All transactions which are recorded will get reflected. See, one of the biggest mistakes NRIs make is they have an NRO account, they have an NRE account. They have maintained some amount in NRO account. It could be an FD, it could be just lying idle in the NRO account. Bank pays certain amount of interest. And
Hmm.
because there is an interest, there is a TDS which will happen.
Yeah.
You have paid a TDS, you don't know whether the TDS below threshold, it is more threshold, and you don't file a tax return, and it raises a question in the IT side that TDS is done, the person has not filed a tax return. Instead of that, it makes absolute sense for you to file your tax returns. The chartered accountant can find out are there any entries without your knowledge which have been reflected. Sometimes a wrong PAN could have been quoted, and your PAN may reflect that such and such entry was there. In the
Yeah.
recent times, lots and lot of NRIs have received IT notices.
Okay.
Many of these notices have no value, but that's because the system itself created those notices because certain things were not tallying with each other. It could be a wrong entry, it could be a neglect, it could be a threshold level within which they have to file the tax return. There could be a land dealing.
Yeah.
There could be anything.
And I
So
think
by
if you have to
filing
also
tax
take
return,
a
you
loan,
will solve all these problems.
right? If you have to also take a loan back in India, I think that's where also it's helpful to have filed your ITR, I believe.
That is always there. To file a tax return, to take a loan, I won't say that you should have an IT return. If you have to prove your income in India, let's say that you have a rental income and that has to be supported for taking that loan, then your tax status is, your filing of tax returns is required. But to prove your overseas income, that's not essential. You can prove your overseas income by your employment letter, you can give your bank statements, you can give your salary credits, you can take a letter from your HR, multiple ways you can prove your income
Right.
outside of India.
So, Mr. Chandrakant, so when we are filing return as an NRI, because I'm assuming in ITR also now you can no longer file return as a resident, you have to file return as an NRI. So, does the tax slab change or anything else change, or that absolutely remains the same as a resident?
I would say for most of the things it remains same. There is
Okay.
no discrimination between a resident Indian and non-resident Indian.
Okay.
This is at a broad level. But there are differences also. For
Right.
example, now the senior citizens have a differential tax slab if they are living in India.
Mm-hmm.
60 to 80, 82 and above, they have a different tax slab.
Yeah.
That facility is not available for non-resident Indians, right? So you have a common tax slab. Likewise, see, for example, if somebody is a resident Indian and he doesn't have an income, the accrual income or the regular active income, but he has a capital gains. And if this capital gains is less than 2.5 lakh, that capital gains can be adjusted against the base income in case of a resident individual. But if you're an NRI, you have a capital gains of 2 lakhs and you have no other income. Your tax slab is zero. But you can't write off this 2 lakh capital gains against that basic tax exemption slab of 2.5 lakhs. So you have to pay taxes on every rupee of capital gains that you have earned there. So you have minor differences here and there. That is why I say it makes absolute sense for every NRI to have a relationship with one of the chartered accountant to serve them throughout their life. And whenever they get hold of a chartered accountant, you should ask the chartered accountant, are you well versed with the NRI affairs? Push your chartered accountants or search for a chartered accountant who is well versed with the NRI rules and regulations. Chartered accountancy by such is such a vast subject. People specialize into residence, GST, sales tax, and so many other things. So find a chartered accountant who is very, very comfortable with the NRI part of the taxation and stay on the right side of the law.
Okay. So we don't get that 2.5 lakhs exemptions
No,
when.
yeah, you don't get it against the capital. You cannot set it off against that.
Okay.
Likewise, for example, the TDS rules. Resident Indian, if you're living in, let's say you are living in India, you are categorized as a resident Indian. In many cases, the TDS may not apply at all. Whereas in case of a non-resident Indian, the TDS will be applied at the highest level. There is nothing called 10% TDS, 2% TDS, 5% TDS. If there is a TDS for NRIs, it will be at the maximum level of either the maximum tax slab of that category or 30% or whatever it is. It will
Okay.
be deducted at the highest level. The reason being NRIs live outside of India, or the government of India pursuing them to file the tax returns and everything becomes very difficult. So what's the course the government will take? Government will say, I will deduct all the tax now. I will assume you are at the highest tax bracket. Let me take my money first. If you are not supposed to pay so much of a taxes, file the tax return, say that you have paid extra TDS, make a claim along with the interest, you will get it back. So the
Right.
TDS is higher, and people have to identify that TDS is not the final tax. People make a big noise around TDS. TDS is not tax, it's a preventive taxation. You don't pay taxes, so that's why I will collect it in advance. You file the tax return. If you're not liable to pay taxes, claim it back. As simple as that.
Yeah. But when we are filing a return as an NRI, we just need to declare our Indian assets, right? Our Indian income, not like if we have something in a foreign destination, that is something we don't need to do. Only the Indian income and assets is something that we need to declare.
That is right, but there are clear guidelines what you should disclose to Indian tax authorities.
Okay.
See, for example, if you are an NRI and you have to give your overseas bank account details, that needs to be provided.
Okay.
You have lived outside of India. It makes sense to declare some of your investment because at a later date you don't have to explain. I would
Mm.
suggest whatever that needs to be declared, you better declare it, your assets, everything. Have a word with your chartered accountant. Find out what is the position of law as things stand today, what
Okay.
obligations you have to declare. Make all those disclosures, it becomes easier. One of the
Okay.
things people make mistake is they work outside and they ask their employer to remit their salary into NRE account, which is a very risky affair, right?
Mm.
So employers outside of India are not supposed to remit money into your NRE. They are supposed to remit it to your bank account, which is overseas, and it's your responsibility to transfer from your account or from an designated exchange back to NRI account. If you start receiving your receipts in the NRI account, you can be questioned, what's the source of this money? Is it money laundering? Is it taxable in India? Are you doing this by controlling this business by sitting in India? Are you sitting in India? You could be working for Australia, but you could be sitting in India. And that's why your employer is transferring money to your NRI account.
Yeah.
Right? So get whatever the incomes that you have, you better get it to your account outside of India, then transfer it to India. That's the best thing. There are small finer points in all these things. That's where I stress the point that have a relationship with one of the chartered accountant who can constantly keep guiding you.
Yeah, I think in Australia, obviously, and I think that applies to most of the Western countries. It's a norm that you usually take a tax consultant advice for filing return. But I think in India, most of the people are themselves become an expert in themselves, and they don't really go and seek a professional help when
See,
required.
what happens is uh, chartered accountant services are not that expensive. See, I live in Dubai. I know how much it costs to go for a consultation with a doctor. I know how much it costs me by way of traffic fines. I know how much it costs by small things,
Yeah,
your toll on the road.
yeah,
Compared to that, what is the amount you pay to the chartered accountant? It's peanuts. Why bargain on it? Take out that worry out of your mind. Stay on the right side. Have a helping hand who will keep himself up to date with what's happening
yeah,
and file tax return. You need something, just call the chartered accountant and he will send it to you. It's as simple as that.
yeah. And just maybe one quick question I have on that is, what about people who have other, let's say, rental income investments? When they come to India, how do they cater to the maintenance, for example, of their rental and investment properties? Is there something that they need to be aware on those lines?
Absolutely, property issues is a big issue. Unlike in developed countries, you don't have asset management companies here which can take care of.
Mm,
And many of the NRIs have this dirty habit of I live outside, so I don't care to pay the association fee.
mm,
There is a complaint from the tenant over there or something, they just become deaf to it. This is a bad habit. I don't say that I don't paint everyone as black
mm.
sheep, but there is a good amount of people who take that view. You have to pay your association dues at every point of time. People may be having genuine difficulty. Okay, I lost my bank account
Yeah,
credentials. I'm not able to do it, and kind of a thing. But you see, in India, there is so much of a digitization, so much of a simplicity. Sitting there, you can automate your payments. Or if you have to pay for an association, you can pay all the 12 months together and you can go. If you have an Indian bank account, your all utility bills can be automated today. There is so much of a facility. Find out. Likewise, it makes absolute sense. See, every town, every village, every metro will have some people who take care of these things as private service providers. Uh, Check from your surroundings who can pay your bills and kind of a thing. Most things can be automated. You don't need anyone. But if
yeah,
you have to pay a property tax, if there is something that needs to be done, keep one person in charge of it. It could be an uncle of yours, it could be a genuine service providers, it could be somebody from your known circle who is working in such institutions. Find out who it could be.
yeah.
Employ those people. Live a stress-free life outside of India. Don't live under the fear that somebody will come and lock it or somebody will come and create a problem for you.
Right. I think one, like, I mean, just the last leg of this podcast, I would like to touch upon, which I think is very, very important, more than even the finances and the tax and other things, is the family matters. Because I think, and I've seen some of your previous videos, but what are some of the important things that people should cater to, like insurances or any other plans, their transaction of income, let's say from overseas, because there are a lot of people who may be having liabilities back in India, responsibilities back in India. Any piece of advice for them?
Every liability you have in India has to be discharged. Because you're not here, you can't escape.
Mm,
Today, everything gets linked. It's completely digitized. Sitting outside, you will not understand the kind of digitization which has happened in India. a country of 140 billion people, 140 crores people here, and the digitization has happened at a population scale. Your passports get scanned everywhere. Your PAN card is attached to your Aadhaar card. You do something and it leaves a trail there in your account information statement. Every liability has to be discharged. The biggest responsibility I would say is take care of your parents. That's the most important. See, we have done a lot of videos for people in different age bands. Gone are the days where people used to have many children. Somebody will take care of them. These days, you have very less number of children.
Yeah.
You as an NRI today has reached a particular level. You have a level of comfort, but your parents could have struggled a lot. They could have spent a lot of money educating you. They could have taken a lot of loans. By nature, parents don't mention any of these things to the children. And today you see children get a job around as soon as they get their graduation, masters, whatever it is, and they don't get married. They spend a humongous number of years in between before they get married and saddled with the family responsibility. What do you do with this particular period? Your earnings, people will spend it on gadgets, they spend it on cars, they spend it on futures, options, unwanted things, going behind the brands. Why don't you think for a while and see how much money your parents have spent on your education? Had you taken a bank loan, you had an obligation to pay for it.
Yeah.
If you had not done a graduation and you had started a business, you would have taken a loan and you had to clear that thing. It becomes your bounden obligation to see that this money is paid back to your parents. If your parent has taken a education loan, please take the responsibility of paying back that loan on yourself. Don't put it on your parents. That's unfair. That's
Yeah.
unfair. If your parents have paid for your education and they don't have an education loan and you feel they are good enough, gift that one pension plan for your parents. You are 22, 23. You have started your job, small contribution. You give it to them. You pay for next 5, 7 years. You are not married. You don't have any other responsibilities. Your small action today can make a big difference to your parents as well as your life. You get married. After that, it's not one life, it is two lives. Pulls and pushes of life will create problems within the family. Your expenses will rise, the children will come. You may find it difficult to spare money for your parents. Why don't you make best use of that? As soon as you become an NRA, why don't you start 5,000, 10,000, a lakh of rupee per annum as a gift to your parent as a pension policy?
Yeah. Even
That's what
health
you.
insurance. I mean, even health.
Yes. The health insurance part, many times I'll say the parents themselves are a problem because they don't listen. The adamant parents are there. I have told a lot of people 1 lakh, 2 lakh health insurance doesn't work.
Nothing.
Today
Yeah.
you need to be having 10, 15, 20 lakh. What if your kidney fails? What if you meet with an accident? What if you are diagnosed with even an early stage of cancer? What's the kind of money that is required? If you don't have money, you don't have enough of health insurance, it can become a big problem. The children can gift at least a top-up plan for the parents. It's dirt cheap to
Yeah.
donate a top-up health insurance plan. A top-up health insurance plan is, let's say, you gift a 25 lakh health insurance plan and say that the first 2 lakh is not covered on that. The first 2 lakh is covered by the insurance your parent already has, or you can withstand that impact. Most of the bills will come within that particular segment. If there were to be a bigger bill, the top-up plan will kick in and you will not be left with a big hole. And there are many families because of this big expense, children don't see their parents and they become a laughing stock in the social circles. So small measures can make a big difference. Likewise, when you come to India, look at the surroundings of your people, the persons. See where they are living. Encourage them to live in safer places. See what best you can do. Can you paint the house? Can you repair the house? Can you how do you how you can make the life of your parents much more better? I don't say that everybody is bad. Most people are good. You can also think about inserting something like a CCTV in your house
Yeah.
Wherever you are, it could be in US, Australia, UK, Russia, wherever it is, you can daily see if you have an aged parents. You can
Absolutely.
talk to them. The internet has been such a benefit through a CC cameras. You can look at the security aspects of your parent. These small things you can think. We don't need to be talking about this. Many people do not look into it. One very important thing. This time when you come back to India, I suggest you take out the impression of India. Go to any corner of India. India has changed. India
Absolutely.
is not a country where you used to say that this is India. NRIs go outside and make fun of you, of the Indians. That day has changed. You go there, you don't need. I have traveled length and breadth of the country. You don't need cash to travel today. You have a mobile phone. Everyone has a mobile phone. Look at the digitization. Look at the way India is clean. India has got good roads. India is digitized. India is educated. Indian women are empowered today, and a lot of NRIs are coming back. Please appreciate that. Find pride and become an Indian ambassadors when you're outside. Don't look down upon India. And India is changing. And India is a place where you one day wish to come back.
My home is always home. All right. I mean, that's how I see it. Of course, there are still some gaps, but we also have to see that it's still a developing country, right? It's not yet 100% developed, and but we are on the right path. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. Which country doesn't have problems? Even
Absolutely.
US has problem. I have traveled length and I've traveled more than 40 different countries. There are problems everywhere.
Definitely.
It's an assumption we make that everywhere grass is always green on the other side. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much, Mr. Chandrakant. I think I have really enjoyed this almost an hour discussion with you, and I would definitely like to say all the viewers that please do send us our feedback, suggestions. If there are other topics that you would want us to cover, Mr. Bhat and his team faculty, we can definitely try helping you if there are other topics that you would want us to cover. So please share your suggestions and feedback with us. And thank you so, so much, Mr. Chandrakant. I've learned so much. And I'll definitely link all your videos and also your website. If an NRI, including myself, I think if any of the viewers do need some personalized services, then they can definitely reach out to you.
Thank you, Parul. It has been a great experience talking to you, and I look forward to you talking to you again. Thank you very much.